and welcome to another episode of Dragon's Oriole Podcast. This episode is going to be about the ICRPG, but first, we have a call-in from John Allen Large of Red Dye Diaries.
Hey Pete, it's John here from Red Dye Diaries. Just re-listening to your guys' back catalogue and other people who are involved in Purple Worm, and I've just been listening to episode 4, and it was quite a nostalgia trip for me because I remember designing some sort of early War Games Club zines and printing them out on my older Amiga 600 at first and then 1200 shortly afterwards. And I'd quite like to get back into the whole zine thing myself, along with any other creative endeavours I can think of. It's just a matter of having the free time at the minute. But I thought your advice and your thoughts on zines were really great. So, not sure if this is my first call in to your cast, but really enjoying going back through the back catalogue. So take it easy, dude. I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, John. I'm glad you found my zines episode useful. Zines are a great way of getting content out, and you can do it quite easily with very little prep. And I think you're going to see a few different zines coming out as part of the Anchorites Appreciate Artisan Month. And with John calling in, this is a good time to publicise a new podcast that myself, John Allen Large from Red Dice Diaries, Colin Green from Spikebit, and Dave Aldridge from Deeper Centre are putting out, called Purple Worm.
Hey there, this is John from the Red Dice Diaries blog and podcast. Have you ever thought to yourself, why aren't there more British people out there discussing games? Well, if so, don't worry about it, we have got you covered. This is just a short advert to announce that the inaugural episode of the Purple Worm podcast will be released this Monday, the 21st of October 2019, and it's scheduled to be released at 7 a.m. British time. So if you'd like to hear Pete Jones from Dragon's Oriole, Dave Aldridge from Deeper Centaur, and legendary anchorite Colin Green aka Spikepit, and myself John from Red Dice Diaries, talking about RPGs, the things we love, the things we hate, the things that really grind our gears, then please join us for the first episode of the Purple Worm podcast, which will be released on the 21st of October 2019 at 7 a.m. UK time. And in our first episodes, we're starting off by talking about weird RPGs. So, hope to catch you then. Take care and watch out for those purple worms.
So there we are, Purple Worm, the new podcast from ourselves. You can find it in the usual places, on the Anchor app, on Spotify and Pocket Casts, and coming soon to Google Podcasts and iTunes. So now on to the main subject, ICRPG, or Index Card Role-Playing Game. This is a game by Brandish Gilhelm, who goes under several monikers. He's also known as Runehammer and Hankering Fennell, and he started off as his house rules for 5e. So why is it called Index Card RPG? Well, the first iteration was a set of index cards that Brandish brought out for any role-playing game, and these index cards had nice simple line art in black ink, which you could pop into any role-playing game you wanted to. So a bit of art to inspire you or to show to your players, and these developed into his house rules that he was using when people asked for them. So as he already had the brand ICRPG, it seemed to stick. They are a generic set of rules, but the book does come with 2 inbuilt settings. There's a fantasy setting called Alfheim and a sci-fi setting called Warp Shell, where you are on a living ship and the ship takes you to different adventures. This is enough to get you going, but you can use ICRPG for any setting that you want. The core mechanics. It's a D20 system, and basically you're rolling a D20 and adding one of your stats to the roll and trying to beat a target number. What is different with ICRPG, the target number is set by the scene. So whatever you want to do in that scene, you're trying to roll against the target number. And then the target number is usually set off around 10, and as the scenario or the campaign progresses, it gets harder and harder. So the target number is used to hit any monsters in the scene. It is used for any task you want to complete and any saves you're required to make in the scene. So for players, it's very easy to know what they're rolling against, and the modifiers are also kept very simple. You have easy rolls, which add +3 to your dice roll, and hard rolls, which are -3 to your dice roll. So it keeps it nice and simple. All damage is known as effort, and there are 4 types of effort. There's basic effort, which is a D4 worth of damage, and these are things like punches with your fists or completing a task when you haven't got the right tools. There's weapon effort, which is a D6, and those are your regular weapons, or when you are doing a task with the appropriate tools. Then there's magic effort, which is a D8, and that can be any magic spells, also maybe any heavy weapons with special abilities. And finally, there is ultimate damage, which is a D12. Now this can be for really powerful spells or really powerful weapons, but anytime you roll a critical hit, which is a natural 20, then besides your normal effort dice, you also add an ultimate dice as well. All hit points are shown as hearts, and 1 heart equals 10 hit points, keeps it nice and simple. Hearts can also be attached to tasks, so you can have a number of hearts to a task when it's dramatically appropriate, and the players have to roll their effort to complete the tasks. The initiative system is different as well. It's a round table system, similar to a board game. So players activate around the table in a clockwise fashion from the left of the dungeon master or games master. Each of them takes their actions, and when it gets back to the GM takes their action. So it keeps things nice and simple, and if players want to alter their initiative, they can simply change place. The other core mechanic is distance. This has been abstracted similar to what is done with Fate. There are 3 range distances: close, which is a couple of steps away from you, near, and far. And they have a system called the banana system. And basically, near is up to the length of a banana, and far is beyond the length of a banana. Now, it doesn't have to be a banana, you can use a pen or something, but it's abstract, so it's a rough distance, and ICRPG is not worried about exact distances and counting squares. It's just dramatically appropriate. As with the core mechanics, character creation is nice and simple. There are 6 standard attributes, and these are your core: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. You also have an armor, which starts at 10, and your 4 types of effort: basic, weapon, magic, and ultimate. And you've got 6 points to distribute between all of those stats. So you could put them into your attributes, you can add it to your armor, or you can add it to your effort. And each point you put in is a plus to that roll. So for example, if you put 2 points in your strength, every time you're using your strength attribute, you're adding 2 to your roll. Similarly, your armor starts at 10. If you put 2 points into that, your armor goes up to 12. And armor is what the monsters are rolling to hit you. They don't use the target number set by the scene. Then you choose your gear. And ICRPG uses loot. Loot is the gear you have. And basically, it can add numbers to your rolls. It can break normal rules. It can add hearts to the character. And there is no experience points in ICRPG. You advance by gaining extra loot. But loot can be gained, but it can also be lost. The other part of character creation is, if you so wish, you can use classes. And there are 9 classes for each setting. And the class gives you your recommended gear and also milestone rewards. This is another part of ICRPG. Besides getting your loot, you can also have milestone rewards. And these are determined by the GM, or the time you get them are determined by the GM, and he will say, everybody take one of the milestone rewards. And this is usually in the form of extra loot. There are also races, or bioforms as they're known in ICRPG, and these give special abilities to players with those bioforms. And there are 5 bioforms for the Alfheim setting, your standard elf, dwarf, halfling type, and 5 for warp shell. There is a very simple magic system in ICRPG. Spells are broken into 2 types, intelligence spells and wisdom spells. And each of the spells categories has about 34, 35 spells in each, and each spell is just one line of text, which gives a range, any effort that you roll, and a description. And it's very easy to create your own spells. It also adds rules for backfiring spells and different magic types. There is a comprehensive bestiary, and beasts, like everything else in ICRPG, is kept simple. They have stats for the beast, which may be as simple as +3 to all rolls, or +2 to strength rolls. How many hearts it has, and as we know, a heart is 10 HP, so that's nice and simple. And any special abilities the beast has. Where ICRPG really shines, especially for new players, is the GM section. There's a really good GM section which explains how to GM. It gives you tips and tricks on what to do. It introduces threats and timers. These are treats or threats that you can give to your players during the game. The GM can roll a d4, and every time it's their turn, the number rolled is reduced by 1 until it gets to 0. And when it gets to 0, he introduces a threat to the group, or it gives them some reward, some benefit. At the back of the book, there are 2 world primers, and these are for the enclosed settings, Alfheim and Warp Shell, and they are basic adventures. And what I like about those is there's enough detail to get you started, but not too much detail that it's all prescribed, so you can add things into yourself. And at the back of the book is a few pages of loot of different types, and each list is 100 items which you can roll for randomly or pick to your heart's content. So there's shabby loot, normal loot, science fiction loot, so plenty of things there to get your teeth into. So what are my thoughts on ICRPG? Well, it's not a game for everyone. However, there is a lot I like in it, and you can pick and choose bits from it. And Brandish actually suggests this at the back of the book. There's a page of how to use it, and you can just take bits and pieces out of it. So for example, if you're already playing a D20 system, you might just take out the easy and hard, or modifiers of +3 or -3. Or you might take in the threats and timers and add it to any other system you want. So there's plenty of stuff to gold mine here. I recently ran a game of ICRPG for the first time at my face-to-face game. I ran an aliens encounter, and the game is that simple that not once did I have to reference the rulebook. And when was the last time you could say that about any system you played, that you didn't have to look at the rulebook? But I ran it completely without looking at the rulebook. It's that simple. I should also mention that Brandish is very active on YouTube and his forum. They've got a great forum there with some really inspirational people who give you some great ideas. And if you're into Patreon, then ICRPG, or Runehammer as he's known on his Patreon, has a very active patron, and he gives out lots of content. And I believe if you subscribe to his top level, any new games, mini games he's bringing out, you get those for free. If you're not part of his Patreon, then you have to pay for them. And one of a couple of ones he's brought out is Blood and Snow, which is a fantasy setting in a harsh, frozen, desolate land with no magic. Another one he's done is Xeno Dead Zone, which is his alien game. So there's a lot there to mine. So that is ICRPG. I will leave links in the show notes to the forum and the Patreon, and check it out. You have been listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. My name is Pete Jones. You can find more information at my website at petejones.neocities.org or at my blog at dragonsarealpodcast.tumblr.com. The opening music was Fireflies and Stardust by Kevin MacLeod. The closing music, also by Kevin MacLeod, was Fretless